My aim is to put down on paper what I see and what I feel in the best and simplest way.
July 21st, 1899. Ernest Hemingway was born in Oak Park, Illinois. Legend has it from the region that a sonic boom burst from his mother's womb that created the crater in Scoville Park across the street. He frequently was dressed up as a little sissy by mother longing for a girl for the first years of his life. Ernest's manhood was quickly shrinking and had to make up ground fast. His father taught him how to fish and hunt animals at an early age. Ernest soon found out that this entailed feasting on the dead animals also. Ernest's journey to manhood continued in his love of boxing and water polo, considered the sport of men. But his journey would come to crossroads when his father shot himself in the head, which would haunt Ernest for the rest of his life.
The only position Ernest could obtain in World War I was driving an ambulance for the Italian army. The least masculine position for the second worst army ever made next to France. One day while handing out chocolate to his boys, Ernest encountered an unforgiving bombshell. Over 200 pieces of shrapnel were lodged mostly into his southern region, but he got up and started caring for the men and received the Silver Star for his service. He would go on to carry the pieces, which were removed from his coin purse, in an actual coin purse.
Ernest would leave war after his kerfuffle and live in Paris with his first of many loves, Hadley Richardson. He was a foreign correspondent, mainly covering sports such as bullfighting and fishing. Ernest and his close friends of expatriates picked up the hobby of heavy drinking pretty easily.
Let's go! Let's go!
Those boys got pretty crazy. In Paris, he would begin writing novels such as The Sun Also Rises. Coincidentally, The Sun Also Rises covers themes such as war, life in Paris, drinking, fishing, and bullfighting. The rest of his life would then be dedicated to developing and displaying his manhood. He found he could do so after F. Scott Fitzgerald asked him to examine his penis in a bar to reassure him it was of normal size. His penis. In a public restroom, might I add.
Ernest frequently moved homes and changed wives for the rest of his life. His quest for manhood would soon switch to Ernest setting the standard for masculinity. While fishing in the Caribbean Sea, Ernest would set a world record of catching 7 marlins in one day. His strong sense of the bigger the better was very much seen through his fishing habits and characteristics. Ernest was also known for being a little overprotective of his fish. This aggression would reappear during World War II as Ernest temporarily stopped shooting up sharks and started hunting German U-boats in the Atlantic from his wooden sea craft. Him and many others would realize their very strong dislike for the Nazis. His next adventure would end him up in an all-expense-paid trip to Paris through his job as a media correspondent during World War II. The catch was, he would have to join the D-Day invasion, escape and fight with the French militant resistance group, and beat the American armies to Paris by a day. There he did the only thing he knew how, and drank to pass the time in a Ritz Hotel bar he took over. Although he broke many international laws at the time, he was awarded the Bronze Star and got more booze.
Somehow lacking the inspiration to keep writing, or just on the lookout for a new career, Ernest found himself enlisting as a KGB spy from the 1940s to the 1950s, codenamed Argo. Although it appears he did nothing but drink for most of those years, J. Hoover put him under FBI surveillance from that point on.
Hey girl. Hemingway inevitably became infatuated with the teenage Adriana Ivankich, while married to his fourth wife, Mary Walsh. This adventurous mistress led to Ernest's writing of Across the Sea and Into the Trees. Although this book was not well received at all, the disappointment pushed Ernest to write The Old Man and the Sea in a mere 8 weeks. And eventually he won the Nobel Prize for Literature, or Nobel Prize for Macho-ness, as titled by no members of society. This now led him to write the book How to Win the Nobel for Men, where he links adultery to getting one of the greatest and most well-respected achievements on Earth. Obviously, he did not do this because he ended up putting his prize to a good use in, again, the only way he knew how. Sway, sway, sway. Somehow it took doctors almost 40 years to correctly label Ernest as an alcoholic, in which Ernest responded by continuing to drink even more and more. He then moved to the great state of Minnesota for a short period, where he was treated with electroshock therapy numerous times in the Mayo Clinic, showing no signs of feeling and often seen giggling while playing with the toys.
Although Hemingway was reported as taking a urinal home from his favorite bar, arguing he pissed away so much money into it, he now owned it. Perhaps his love of cats best sums up his life as a whole. Hemingway's house in the Florida Keys is now a cat museum. His 6-toed cat got around so much that the cats with more than 5 toes, polydactyl cats, are now called Hemingway kitty cats.
Ernest knew his great life could only end by the hands of the greatest man he knew. After showing his love of planes by surviving 2 plane crashes in 2 consecutive days, he tried to walk through a plane's propeller, and then again tried to jump off the plane while it was in flight. He was saved by fellow passengers both times, and he kept on drinking and becoming more crazy. He finally shot himself with his favorite shotgun, months later in Idaho.
There is no one thing that is true. It is all true.